Jinx. Jinx, I got a bone to pick with you, my man.
What?
You were teasing me about honing in on Kellis being analogous to the light, and he is the light that these people need. He is the light that happens when you subtract the darkness that comes before. That
Mm.
symbolism is all over these chapters, and I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon because we now know that Kellis is the warrior prophet. That's right, we are discussing the first half of the first, or rather the second part of The Warrior Prophet by R. Scott Bakker. So, if you don't want full spoilers up to chapter, or up through chapter 12 of this book, I would click off right now. But otherwise, shall we dive in?
That was a good intro. You been practicing that?
I have not. I was off the cusp.
Okay, I'm impressed. I wouldn't be able to do that.
Well, what can I say? We'll see. It might get a little stumbly as we start talking about these chapters because a lot of zoomed out Holy War stuff, shenanigans going down.
Yes.
But before that, we did spend some time with Zarias in chapter 9, who's been summoned by Mathanet. And I suppose he's back in the Holy City, right? I,
Mhm.
yeah, because he's going through like this procession to meet Mathanet, and people hate him there too, man.
Yeah.
People hate him. He's fearing assassination, being the paranoid Zarias he is. There's some mob violence. Some people end up dead. But then we get the meeting between Zarias and Mathanet, and as far as I can remember, I know we saw Mathanet on page in the first book, but this was like the first conversation I can remember with him.
No, we had
And
one. Sorry to cut you off. We had one before this. Actually, I think we might have had two. He was talking to Proyas in the first book when,
okay,
uh, because Proyas, I mean, Mathanet said, "Who is that guy?" When Mathanet recognized a sorcerer at the at his little tirade when he announced the Holy War, and he said, like, you shouldn't be here. And he's like, Mathanet said, "How do you know this guy? He's obviously a sorcerer. He's not supposed to be here." And that
yeah,
was like
right.
one
Okay,
conversation.
so well, all right. So that I remembered. I know we actually talked about that. I think maybe it was last week. But just in terms of like an intimate conversation,
Oh yeah,
I think the reason I was mainly paying attention to this one was because now we've been bouncing around with different theories. Is Mathanet Mungus? Is Mathanet part of the consult? Is he someone else? I was not getting Dunyain vibes from him,
yeah.
both in terms of appearance and behavior. But I will say he did kind of put Zarias in his place here. Let him know he's been hearing some rumors about what the House Valkyrie has been up to with this holy war, and putting him in his place. So, and it's actually, there was something funny I found in this passage where Zarias was reflecting about, because he goes into this anger mode as he, on top, like just to get some even footing with Mathanet or something like that. And
Mhm.
I think he's thinking about how his brother, or not his brother, Conphus, his nephew,
Yeah.
doesn't have the ability to hate so much as him, and be relentless with that,
Mhm.
which I thought was interesting. As Conphus is not very happy with someone that we'll be speaking about later.
Yeah.
So um, yeah, uh, well, heading back over there to the Holy War and all that. There are multiple attempts made to siege Hinnereth. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah. Internet actually that's good. Good. That's
Hinnereth.
good
All right,
pronouncing.
not
Yeah.
bad. Eventually results in costly victory for the House of Akuri. The Holy War shows up, and they're a little upset. They're not able to pillage it according to the terms of surrender. And they're all like, so the House of Akuri, we see directly after this exchange with Mathanet, they're most certainly operating in their own interests over there. Um, so uh, then we have a conversation between Zynemus and Proyas that occurs, discussing Kellis, of course, and how they feel about him. Just in essentially a paraphrasing of just how everyone is feeling about Kellis nowadays, um, and we see some more typical Proyas scolding Zynemus, and Kellis for that matter, for associating with the abomination that is Akka.
Hmm.
Um, and then at the end of the chapter, we see Kellis sort of pondering those around him. He gave Esme some respect here. I forget exactly how he describes her, but um, like poignant or witty or something along those lines. Those are
Hmm.
definitely not the exact words. But it was nice to see her, her intellect be valued by someone.
Hmm.
Um,
Piercing.
and yeah, yes, there you go. There you go. That's it. Um, and that we kind of leave off with Kellis. I will be honest. I have a lot more to say about the next chapter that I was taking notes on, which is 11.
Hmm.
This chapter I thought was kind of a bit of I don't want to say repetitive stuff, but um, establishing where things stand to open up the part thing. Nothing really shocking or bewildering occurred here. But if there are details you wanted to dive deeper on, I'm happy to discuss it more at length.
No, I remember that chapter mostly from Zarias, and how he originally thought people loved him, and then he's like, these fools, once they started throwing obscenities at him and trying to charge and tackle him, he, um, he was like, it's like, they don't understand, I'm just brilliant, like, I will be reckoned out. They might hate me now, but wait, they'll see that once I reconquer all those lands, they'll see that I was right all along, and they'll revere me even amongst the old Nosrai kings. So um, it's a very very I think it's interesting, although um, the dude's literally off his rocker, in my opinion. He's delusional, delulu, as the kids would say. Um, and also the interaction with Nathanet at the beginning, or at that part as well. Is as soon as he saw Nathanet, he was kind of like flustered. Um, and Zarias did mention it, like at the first part of it was like he knew Nathanet knew what he was doing. He wanted a prove a point by saying come to basically the cathedral, and you have to walk amongst your people and see what you're doing to your people and how much the people hate you. It's a power move. So I think it's pretty cool, at least in my opinion. I like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, I thought that whole exchange was actually pretty interesting. A real humanization of, well, I mean, I don't know if you want to call it a humanization of
Yeah,
Mathanet, but um, there was like many sort of instances where Zarias is observing his behavior. He's laughing, which I know is supposed to be a carnal indulgence for the Shreya, and things like that. And he's kind of revering and being so praised upon, which I think that's got to rattle Zarias, given what we just discussed about him. So yeah, and actually another note there. A cool quote I had down was, "When princes meet, they find either brothers or themselves," which is to say, either peace or war. I like that line.
Mm.
Um, Now, actually, so you were mentioning this, how Zarias, was thinking to himself, about the glory that he will be basked upon following all of this, and this caught my eye that he referred to his title as the Aspect Emperor.
Hmm.
I found that very interesting
That was the first mention of it.
because,
Yep.
yes, so that is, of course, the name of the second sequence of books we have in this series. Right now, we're in the Prince of Nothing. Now, the Aspect Emperor. Um, I'm going to take a wild guess and
Okay.
say that the central figure of the next series is not going to be Zarias.
Hmm.
So maybe I'm wrong, but that was planting a few seeds of what this means
Yeah.
for.
If he hadn't, or said probably probably when the book was first coming out, you didn't. No one could have obviously wouldn't have had that foresight. But now that we
Of
know
course.
the what the next four books, title of the series is, I mean, it kind of a slight spoiler,
Yeah, I
but I'm
mean,
not confirming or
I figured
denying.
that was safe to mention as we've thrown around before, and I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, but so yeah, I don't know, just leading to me to speculate about some things, but I can hold back for now.
Yeah. I'm not going to confirm or deny anything, but I'll
Of
just let it
course.
ruminate. Okay, is it my turn? I guess.
Yeah, chapter 10, and if you want to dive in.
Okay, chapter 10. Let's pull up my notes here. Uh, so we kind of start off with a commune. Um, Again, he's ruminating about his circumstances. This is pretty much just like his default state. Like the dude is just constantly like, man, very much a like I guess was it him that he says like he likes to live. He traumatizes himself. I don't know if it was him or someone else. Maybe I'm thinking something else. Regardless, he's very much a do I tell them or do I not tell the Adiursis, which is where the mandate school is. And he ultimately resolves himself and said, "All right, I just can't tell." He's come to this conclusion like multiple times. I don't know why he's even bothering even thinking about it anymore. Um, so Gaka is still teaching Callus about all such things. So like the three C's and the ancient North, Seswatha, in the Bronze Age, the Shrank and the Non-Man during the day. Um, we get to a part where I think a little bit for like a page or a couple of pages down the line where again they started having these fire pit moments, so where they sit around the fire. Mostly it's Naor, Serwa, Esme, Zynemus. Okay, that's all right. Jesus. See, the names are too close. Um, Usually
This
you'll
is
see
we're talking about the
Dinchases.
cool lunch table. We wouldn't want
Yeah, the
Sarias
cool
anywhere
lunch
near
table.
here.
Yeah, when you have Dinchases and Zinkapa, uh, uh, and yeah, a bunch of other slaves, mostly in Akka, of course, and they usually sit by the fire. And we've known, I think, in the last few chapters before or previously that they're starting to get an audience. People come just to watch. They never interrupt. They just come to watch their conversation. It's like Kels draws people in. But at this moment in time, they're just sitting down. I think Callus comes back from the meeting with Proyas, Naor, and then other people talking strategy of war. Um, they're eating it around the fire, and Esme brings up the point, it's like, where is everyone? And there's like, oh, or where's Naor? And he's like, ah, and then Callus mocks him by saying some of the lines of like, just making fun of his culture and stuff like this, like some Skilvendi sayings that you think he would say, and everyone laughs. Eventually, Naor comes back from the war meeting, and as we just couldn't continue laughing, they start busting out laughing. Everyone laughs at them, and Naor realizes that he's being mocked the whole time, so he storms off back to his camp, and then Akka makes a little jibe saying, it's friends here. You should get over it. It shows that we are friends. And then Kels is like, is it? Or is it an excuse, is what he said. And Akka was taken aback, everyone was taken aback, and he got a little momentarily angry, of course, and then then Kels immediately apologized before Akka gets angry. Fully angry and starts to voice his opinion, and they both apologize and kind of went about their way. Obviously, that was a ploy from Kellis. Of course, he would do something like that to show his humility or some nonsense that he likes to do. So, so we also had like a tidbit with a watcher about a meaning of his. And so this is like when I think a little bit down the line, where it was another. I guess it was another night. This campfire things continue to happen, and more people come around. So sometimes Kellis and Esme are there. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes, or Kellis. I mean, sometimes Akka and Esme are there. Sometimes they're not. And this time Akka decided to go to the uh, be amongst the people just to see what why they're so fascinated, why they listen, just sit here and listen, not even interact. And the guy was mentioning something uh, about the moment where he stumbled and Kels picked him up one time, and he said a saying. Let me see if I can find that saying. Ooh, ooh, ooh. No, that wasn't it. That wasn't it. This is a long chapter.
It
Um,
was. All these
yeah,
chapters were very long. I think this was, we had to read like 120 pages.
Yeah, I can't remember what he said, but he said something, and it was like an old proverb, and Kellis, or then Akka was like, "Oh, yeah, that's an old proverb. It means to not curse like the way you step for, or don't pretty much don't rely on others to pick you up or something." And the other guy was like, "No, it's not." And then Akka was like, "Oh, okay, what does it mean?" And the guy just turns around and walked away. And he's like, okay. So Hawker turns and tries to walk away. He said something along the lines of like, it means uh, that we need to uproot. Yeah, I said it means that we must uproot the world, that we must destroy all that offends. And it's and Aka's like, oh, that is a lot of hate in that guy's voice, and I don't know how you personally, this is me. I don't know how you got interpret that from just saying that simple phrase of he said, "Doff your sandals and shod the earth." What the guy said, and honestly, I that's what Kellis told to that one dude, and Aka's like, don't that's an ancient proverb, and it means like something along the lines of um, it means the fact like remind people not to foist their failings on others. So basically, don't fall on rely on others of your incompetence. And the guy was like, no, it's not. And then I was like, can you explain what it means? And the guy just kind of turns around and walks away. And I was like, okay. So then Naka tries to walk away as well. And the guy randomly says it means that we must uproot the world, that we must destroy all that offense. And with a lot of hatred in his voice. And Naka's like, yeah, that's kind of scary and foreboding. I still don't understand how you interpret that from that, but Kel's black magic works. I guess he'll just convince anyone to do anything. So interpret it a certain way. Um, um, and then there was another. I don't know if it was that night as well, but uh, the Zanim is one. Eventually, one of the nights that they were at the fire, at the front of the fire, and they're still surrounded by more and more people that keep coming, like day after day. Um, he tells them like, "All right, can you just talk to these people? They keep standing here, and it's kind of annoying. Just go and talk to them. They're here for you." And the guy's just like, "They here because they think I'm more than what I actually am." He's like, "Well, it doesn't matter. Just go talk to them." So then that's what we started which we call the impromptus, and he just rambles on about stuff, mostly about Henry Genius and all the stuff that he preaches the Tusk, basically the Bible, and it obviously connects to people and more in a very deep meaning. And then one at a time he points to the guardsman because he seems troubled. I guess this is one of Kel's ploys, I'm guessing. Um, and he talks about like what troubles you, and the guy goes into a story about how him and his unit were going to go to a nearby village to go get resources. I don't know, I can't quite remember if it was like to raid or pillage or whatever. And he saw a dead girl that's like um, little girl that's like dead on the side of the road, and that just like haunted him. Um, and the guy was just like he was just so distraught about it, and it's like Kellis mentions that I'll bring up some quotes that he mentions. He said, you must witness. You're witnessing. That's a good thing." He said, "Witness is the seeing that testifies to judges, so that it may be judged. You saw and you judged. A trespass had been committed. An innocent has been murdered. You saw this." Um, and then he goes on further to say, he says, "And then one strike with a hammer of a sword or a sword, and the blister breaks. Our heart is torn, and then we suffer. We feel the ache for the blessed, the sting of the cursed, and we no longer see, we witness." So it's not only just to see atrocities, but to actually feel them and feel the empathy behind those atrocities. Um, the cows meaning like the hardness, meaning the trying to kind of I don't say reproachful, but being the ability to kind of block out like atrocities from happening around you and not feel anything. It's like feeling the actual emotion is to witness, in a sense. And he's like, and the guy was like, "Rejoice, rejoice," but I suffer. And he's like, "Yes, rejoice. The cow's hand cannot feel the lover's cheek. When we witness, we testify, and we testify, we make ourselves responsible for what we see, and that means we belong." and he goes on to talk about belonging and being a part of the world. When I kind of how I interpreted this, I'm kind of curious what you think, but when he talks about being belonging to something, belonging to the world, it means I interpret it as not being alone in your suffering. So you take notice that, okay, yeah, I might be suffering because I see atrocity happening, but I know I'm not the only one. Um, that feel this. We all belong to the world, whether you like it or not. So you all have some type of connection in a sense. That's what I
Yeah, I
interpreted. But
I think that's a fair interpretation. I guess I was thinking of it a bit more closely in line with uh, sort of the effect of the world on you, to where like if you're undergoing suffering and things like this, like Kellis, as he himself would not do, is
true.
encouraging those to um, be aware of I don't want to say passions, but what like aspects of the world that are affecting your emotions and ways of thought and things like this, and you know encouraging people to be one with the world and um, you know rejoice in it in a sense, which
Yeah,
is
don't just reject it flat out. I guess for flat out reject emotions, or emotions be present and engage with all emotion. Kind of.
right.
I just read a different book that's
You know,
yeah.
do as I say, not as I do. Is pretty much.
Basically, this guy. I can't feel those things, but yeah, do that.
Sorry, what were you saying about something you read along these lines?
Yeah, I've read Jean-Paul Sautier, his book Nausea, recently, and it's like very existential stuff. So about being present and actually knowing things of existence. It again, I'm not a philosopher in no way, shape, or form. Never took well, I took a philosophy class once, but I'm not a dedicated student of philosophy. I'm still very new, but it kind of has a reminiscence of that in the sense that understanding your existence. I would say actually it's the antithesis of that. You need to be present while in the book. Okay, I don't want to spoil, but like they ponder what it really means to be present in the world, I guess. But or, yeah, so
Hey,
I
I mean,
just
I
it's
see that relevant, and don't be selling yourself short. In my eyes, the prerequisite to being a philosopher is being able to think. So
mm,
it is tragically one of the most gate-kept fields. And I mean, like I said, I've taken some philosophy and done some reading in the past, but I am by no means anything beyond an amateur. That doesn't mean we could still have some good talks about this kind of stuff, right? So
yeah. Okay, where is this? So after that, Esme goes talks to Akka about Callus, and she basically says like, "This guy's a prophet, you know that, right?" And Akka's like shuddering and scared. It's like, "Why are you telling me this?" She's like, "You need to know this. Like, when's the last time you talked to Eddie Ursus and about the situation?" And he's like, "I can't tell him about this. This dude, he could be the prophet, and if he is, like, he's so afraid of making a mistake, which I guess is like a common trend in Akka's life." Um, that he just doesn't act in the situation because it's like if I tell them and he is a prophet, then we could have doomed the world, um, and him saving our world if the mandate decides to do something rash and end up killing him and prying information out of him and killing him. Although we know that ain't happening. Um, uh, and if he is if he's not a prophet, he's still in an Remember, like still still need him. Like he still has power, even if he's not maybe not at this stage magical, or has any magical feats. He can still be very useful in the war to come. I guess after that, um, um, so one night, I guess the Aqua was reminiscing about one time him, Callus, and Zynemus were really drunk and everyone else was asleep. And he talked about his love. I guess because he was thinking about what Esme was talking about, how she knows him. And he mentions that I think uh, they talk about love in the sense of Esme and Akka versus like Kellis and Surway. He's like, well, yeah, I love Surway, but not the same way you do. He's like, and then Zen. Akka's like, how? And he's like a child. Your love is, where's the quote? I had it.
Oh, actually, I love the reply to this by Aka. He's like
Yeah,
a child, feeling
yeah, mm,
cautiously childlike or
yeah.
curiously childlike.
He said your love is like a child. Uh, no, there's no question, simple without reserve. She is your ground. And I was like, damn, that's kind of deep. He's saying what he needs to say to kind of, to manipulate. I'm like Nayor. I was like, what does he mean? He has some angle here. I'm like the tinfoil that guy. It's like this guy's up to something all the time. I don't trust any word he says, not a single one. Um,
This whole
but
sequence, by the way, is where I was just most shocked in this chapter.
yeah, I was just,
What this is building to.
yeah. So I was like, oh wow, okay. Um, and then after that, Sarwa, later that night, I guess it was not that night, it was another night, she comes to Akka, obviously, um, and basically rapes him. Like, the dude just was so drunk that he couldn't really say, well, he tried to say no, but,
Okay,
you know,
I'm very glad that is how you interpreted it too, because to me, like I walked away from that thinking that this did not seem to be very consensual, did it?
so yeah, so she basically just rapes him. Whether it was it's her own will, I'm not entirely sure, but we'll hopefully see soon. Um, And I guess Esme saw it. I guess she was in the dark. He thought she saw it in the dark. He tried to reach out for her, but of course, he just couldn't. He had no agency in there in that moment. Um,
I
and
just I need to throw in real quick.
mm,
In terms of what you're saying, was it even like her? Um, like was that on her fruition as
hmm
well? In terms of Survey,
mm,
um, so I believe like she thinks back when she's like recounting the you know that and she is reminding herself that it wasn't a commune between her legs, it was Kellis. And then she thinks back to Kellis saying, "You must know me, Serway, in all my guises." So I think
mm,
you have to do a little bit of interpretation there. But the way I took that was like Kellis put her up to it. And
mm.
essentially, the way in which she like painted the situation to her was like, go sleep with him, but it's for
My
me.
will. Yeah, it's my will.
It's like just think of it as if it's me,
Mm,
because you're doing me a solid by doing this. So
mm.
yeah, jeez. Anyway,
This
continue.
guy. Okay. Okay. I think a little bit after that, this wasn't during the fire part, sitting around the fire, but um, it was Zynemus, Esme, I think Akka, oh, obviously Akka, Kellis, and I'm not sure if like Jim Cobbins and Chasies were there. But they're talking about kind of I, somehow the conversation got to the uh, about the magic and just like different types of the sorceries around there. And Callus points out that he could see it. He could see his mark. I guess see the mark on Akka, and it's like he and everyone else is joking around, but like he's like, no, I definitely can't see it. And Akka's like, it's like there's no way to prove it without you being damned. And Akka's like, wait here, I'll be right back. And everyone else is continuing the conversation. Um, and then Akka comes back with a Lofty doll, same doll that Esme was pulling out when she was playing with it. It has a trapped soul inside, and of course Zen was not happy about this situation. And so Akka said, "Okay, here's how it is, how I'm gonna do it." And it's basically like I'm gonna put this words of power, I guess, and I want you to read it. You're not gonna be tainted because it's like there's some loophole. It's like you're not gonna be tainted because of the way I did it, because I'm pretty much the one that's put power in it, and you're just the one that just it says the incantation that actually resurrects it. So you're not gonna be tainted, and no one else should be tainted in the process and stuff like this. So you put the words of the power in there, and then the doll woken, and I think this is through Surwa's face, and she says she sees like a face inside the skin of the Wafty doll, and it starts moving around like a normal human being, no like clunky movement, and then whatchamacallit, Akka turns it pretty much turns the spell off, and then Zen gets mad, and then he's like, "Dude, why did you do that?" It's like, don't you see? Like, this proves that he's one of the few." Um, and basically says, like, maybe you're right. Maybe Proya should have kicked you out. Basically, maybe Proya should have kicked you out. You don't listen so hard. And he storms off, and Serwell's like, "Ah, oh, Kellis, you must talk to them. We can't be. They need to learn to forgive, like I can." Ah, naive. Ah, Serwell. How nice of her. Um, so after that whole situation, so it's like through again through Server's eyes, Naor comes back and he's made a decision. He wants to go, pretty much move him and his setup and go live with Proyas in a sense and kind of be away from Callus and company. And he basically said he came back for his prize, which is Serwa, and Callus Jackson basically says no, you're not doing that. And I mean, they didn't have like a physical altercation, just like a battle of wills, and Cal ends up pretty much just winning and says, she stays with me. And of course, Sir Wes, like, a god has touched her, washed over her with her divine love, fully in the Kellis, let's see, adoration crew. Um, and that's pretty much it. Just I think Naor the ends off with Naor uh, just kind of just sad and just walks away. Um, and he kind of just goes into like I don't want to say like a tirade. He just said when he said the muscles Scaveni's fury permeated the night air, swinging sharp, heavy with the promise of blood. The sound of women weeping tugged at his groin. She might have been worth its fancy were it not the smell of her fetus, which sickened, which passed for the thought, bolted through past for its soul. I have no idea what I just read, but yeah, he basically just walks away. You can cut that part out. And that is pretty much the long A chapter. There's one other chapter that's like later on. I think this book that's like an hour long, just pure audiobook. But again, I'm immersive reading. But this one was a pretty long chapter. So
A lot. I mean, clearly a lot went down, and I think comparatively to how much detail I gave about Chapter 9, paled in comparison. So thank you. And it almost makes me a little sad because I think I'm in terms of how I'm going to recount Chapter 11. Pretty high level there as well, but there were a lot of notes I made because this was actually one of my favorite chapters so far. I actually
okay.
reread it earlier today,
Hmm.
and it was, I don't know, maybe a little bit up up its own butt, and super philosophical, but I thought there were a lot of great lines in here. So um, we start off. Baker's actually painting a pretty lively portrait of the natural world as we pan into another city, Shigek.
Shigek.
Shagek. Um, and yeah, so cursed place for the men of the Tusk. Hippopotamuses. Was not expecting that in a Baker
Hmm.
world. Um, but yeah, I think for the most part, the way this goes down is a lot of the villagers kind of concede off the bat and things are chill. And then the city of Shiyama tries to negotiate and they pay the price. This all just kind of spins into atrocities. Um,
Yeah.
Once the men of the Tusk get some taste of blood, there's no stopping them. And
Satiating
I
their
will
thirst.
spare you those details. But in the aftermath, Kellis climbs up a ziggurat, and up there, he's got to have a pretty important talk with Akka today. So, um, first of all, I just love this description of how sort of raw he sees a Kamion, um, which I think really just grounds you to how Kellis interprets the world. He sees a Kamion laboring up the steps, sweat darkened the armpits, and the collar. Oh, sorry, sweat darkened the armpits and collar of his white linen tunic. Um, but the truth is, following his internal monologue here, he's kind of giving Akamian a lot of respect,
Hmm.
thinking of him as maybe a stronger man than anyone else sees him, or even he sees himself.
Hmm.
Um, which is all good to factor in, considering the fact that today is the day where he pushes Akavian towards, first of all, just abandoning the mandate in general.
Hmm.
He's really pointing out the problems with fanatics and saying things like, they're basically all the same. Um, he is really playing directly to his emotions. First of all, Kamian's still a little shaken up about the whole Survey incident, feels guilty because of that. Um, there was a line, I didn't write it down, but it was something um, like there's no better friend than the one who's like seduced your wife or something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that.
He starts emulating Inru in terms of mannerisms just to really hit his points
Oh,
home. And
sorry to cut you off. That is the
no
reason.
problem.
You're right. I didn't want to say it about your interpretation of Serwa and the Akka situation. That was the explanation. I knew that you're right. I just didn't want to say it because I didn't know if it was later on in the book
Like
or
a spoiler.
not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that it was definitely he coerced her into doing that.
Yeah, I figured. I just wasn't sure how directly it was, or if like he had already had the pieces in play to where Sarah would take the initiative. I mean, clearly not, but that could have been a
Yeah.
possibility where we got this confirmation, I guess. But
Hmm.
yeah, so at the end of the day, Kellis, he's getting a little more daring in terms of getting emotional and pushing or acting emotional,
Yeah.
pushing Raka and things like that. And as we'll discuss in the next um, chapter, um, Aka is definitely leaning more so than before towards sharing the knowledge of the gnosis with him. So, and yeah, that's a whole other discussion coming up. Um, but yeah, I thought something he was noting about Aka was, an intellectual habit of his, noting the importance of the contrary and not so obvious things. And this sort of critical thinking set him apart from other men. So, again, Kellis at least given some people their flowers within his own head before he goes on to ruin their lives. Um, so, um, yeah, I think yeah, another tactic he's using here is leveraging the fact that Akka looks at what comes before and all that sort of things. Um, and something I actually another line. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. I just this was a great conversation within Kellis's head where there were a bunch of just random lines that I wanted to call out.
Mhm.
This I thought was amazing. Just as a general line from Baker, not even necessarily relevant to the scene, but for events to have purpose, their ends had to determine their beginnings, and this was impossible. And this was in line, of course, with discussing the absurdity of fanaticism and um, the mandate and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so I mean, that's where we leave off. Obviously, how Akka responds to all that will be explored in the next chapter. But for now, what follows from all these horrible atrocities? People need to justify themselves. We're participating in the holy war because it is the right thing to do. So they need a prophet to, this was kind of alluded to earlier how Kells is doing this thing where he's giving these sermons and things of that nature. Um, so, um, yeah, and he's described as he who sheds light within. So I made a note of that, tying back to that recurring symbolism as he's speaking. Somehow the sun flashed brighter. Um, but yeah, so we see a lot of this through the eyes of what is it? Martimus is I keep forgetting.
Um,
Martimus.
Artemis.
Martimus, right. So as we know, Confis put him up to essentially try to infiltrate the Kellis cult, and no, that's not going to work.
Yep.
He's thinking, first of all, Kellis is just painted as essentially, the perfect prophet, to where not only is he so knowledgeable already and like intimately familiar with all of these um, existing religious texts, but because he's a smart guy and he is a master of deductive logic, it was as though the prince pursued further truths, the unspoken implications of what all Orthodox in Rithi already believed. To listen to him, it seemed, was to learn what one already knew without knowing. Um, so, thought that was great. Um, I mean, I'm not even gonna get specific here because I don't want to like imply the wrong things because obviously a lot of what Kellis is saying here is very skewed to particularly religious beliefs and very manipulative, and I wouldn't say there's value in everything he's saying, but I will just point blank say that uh, for this audience he's cooking, like he has some bars in
Yeah,
this.
literally.
Yeah, I mean, and he is just piercing the soul of Martimus as he says stuff like, "You are alone because you lie ceaselessly. Those who
Hmm.
love you do not know you because you are a mummer. You lust for obscene things because you deny that you lust." And Martimus is just sitting here.
It's like, yo, he
Another one I've
knows.
gotten written down that was just perfect. How could a life be cupped into a single palm? As he
Mm.
just, yeah. So yeah, he's sold. And I think actually the introduction to Martimus in this chapter is he's thinking of himself as a very practical man, and that all ties into relevance where he realizes he is in the presence of a god.
Hmm.
Um, and Kellis actually goes up to him and is like, "Hey, listen, I know you're here, but um, you know, get in line, and I know what I'm doing to you.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
once you're ready, come back." And I'm not sure if it was during the speech or within that exchange, but Martimus felt like a child before his father, unable to lie, unable to speak the truth.
Hmm.
Um, and then there's actually an assassination attempt on Kellis as well.
Yep.
And that doesn't go over so well because this man has the defense of the people. But this whole situation um, ties us back over to Confus, who is pissed off.
Hmm.
Um, and I like this line too. Kiri Confus had said this somewhat more emphatically than he'd intended, but then these were emphatic times as he's speaking to Proyas. Um, and, they're discussing Kellis. Um, Confus is all like, this man is a false prophet. Um, we should accuse him as such.
Hmm.
And another banger that he thinks to himself here: dead prophets were useful because one could rule in their name, but live
Exactly.
prophets, which I thought was just a great satire on like the entirety of the basis of the Holy War and all
Exactly.
that.
And just
Um,
religion in general. Mm.
oh yeah, totally. This chapter was off the charts. IMO. But yeah, so Proyas is, we obviously know he is completely under Kellis's snare. Um, and he is, he basically accuses Confis of sending the assassin, who is apparently an Ansar man, on Kellis. Um, and yeah, Proyas, I think, refers to him as the most deeply pious man he's ever met. And we know Proyas himself is a religious guy, so saying a
Hmm.
lot.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah. So Confus is stumped. Martimus, supposed to be his right hand man, comes back what he describes as like a blabbering idiot. Um, he's stuck. So the warrior prophet has risen to power amongst the people.
Hmm.
With the effects just continuing to ripple. So sorry that was a little all over the place. I wanted to go over what went down, but then also um, had a bunch of lines that because I did give this chapter a reread because I very much enjoyed it. So
It's all good. I mean, it's a very good chapter. But like you said, that's definitely probably my favorite one of my favorite quotes um about the dead prophets and stuff. I mean, Baker was. I didn't know he was that funny. I mean, when he wrote that line. So I was like,
that's what
okay.
I mean. Because I remember like early on when we were reading these, they're like humor is very few and far between in these books, and I read that I was like, are you sure about that? Every once in a while we get a banger like that. I
Mm,
so
yeah, but Yeah, that was a decent. That's a pretty decent summary. I mean, you touched on most of the parts there, so I can't think of anything else that was really uh, really missing in that. So
All right,
uh,
well, if you're good for this last chapter, and this one was I thought a good one to end on. This almost felt like kind of the end of a part, even though obviously it's
yeah,
technically a
yeah, it
part.
definitely felt like it should have been a end of part two type of chapter.
Yeah.
So so chapter two starts off with his POV of Zynemus, and he's talking to some guy named Therashute, and he's talking about a bunch of books in a library in the city that they have captured. It's called well, it's called the city was Iothea, but there's a library in Iothea run by the what is their name? No, someone's name. Some Serots, yeah, yeah, run by the Serots, and he goes into I guess later on in that chapter. But Akka, or Zynemus is like, okay, this is not really, I'm not really interested. It's like, why are you telling me this, dude? It doesn't matter to me. I'm not in the books. I'm the military dude. I swing my axe and stuff, or sword and stuff. And he's like, oh, it has something about the gnosis, and that was a his ears perked up at that. He said, gnosis, you say? He said, maybe I should tell Akka we kind of need to separate ourselves from him right now. It'd be a good thing to do along the lines. And so eventually you swap to or not Kellis's POV, Akka's POV, and Akka is like, okay, packing up, ready to go, and Esme, or is it Esme's POV? I think it was Esme's POV. He's packing up, and Esme basically asks, like, take me with you, like, please take me with you, I guess. And he was like, I can't take you. I need time to myself to ruminate. It's like, why do you need time? Like, we are supposed to be a team. We're supposed to work together. We solve these issues together. Like, we each make each other better being together. Basically, she's like, she wants to be his confidant and things, but it's like, he's like, I can't tell you these things, blah, blah, you just wouldn't understand. I just, basically, I know more than you could ever possibly understand, which is not true as you, at least in Cohen to Kel's perspective, she has piercing intellect and she's so much smarter than he gives her credit for. Um, I don't know. It's just for some reason. So I guess that's what we mean by love is blind. But he can't see. He just doesn't see how much good that she can contribute to their relationship. But he's just I don't know. I don't know. It makes me mad. Just thinking about it. Um, it's like he's right there. Anyways, um, so they have an argument, and of course they do low blows, and Akka did even a lower blow, saying like, "Where's your daughter at?" And she's like, "How dare you say such a thing?" He's like, yeah, that was my bad. I shouldn't have said that. That was a low blow. I was a bad move." But he said, "But I just can't bring you with me. I need to do this myself." And he packs up a daybreak and heads to Adiursis, or not Adiursis, Jesus, Iothea's the library in Iothea. Um,
Yeah, I just
that's
back
go
to
ahead.
real quick relating to him bringing up her daughter.
Hmm.
It's interesting. One of my favorite things Baker does is when he sort of plays with like one of the Kellis chapter centric ideas in a context where no one would have any clue about that sort of way of thought.
Hmm.
Esme thinks to herself, like, how could she think such things because of what he said? Um, and like because she's suddenly thinking back to her daughter and things like that, all just because Akka brought the ideas to the forefront.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was oh god, she just goes through the ringer with this man. It's
Yeah, it's a very toxic relationship. It's one of those relationships where, like, if I could sit down both parties, I said, yeah, you guys need to end this relationship immediately and just never talk again. I hate to say it, but yeah,
oh,
just
nothing tells
just
me
separate.
how it's gonna go down. But anyway,
Yeah,
sorry, continue.
yeah, no, it's fine.
Just before we
That's
jumped off that, because we go in completely other directions in this chapter, I didn't want to call back to that in like 10 minutes or so once we.
yeah. So okay, at this point we are at Aka's starts to reminisce about his time at Ursus with his older bunkmate called Scala, not Sankla, um, and they're talking about how him and Aka used to admonish about the rings of the tusk. And but there's one reading that really caught his that still haunts him. He talks about expect no admonishment, I guess. So do things for good, not for the promise of reward, and the fact and what counts as damnation, like understanding that if you know about know about the rewards or know about if you seek to give out things or do good just for the end of a reward, it's like you're not really doing good. You're just fulfilling your own selfish desires in a way, and that kind of just like um, that kind of it's like a spiraling thing with him because it's like okay, so the only way so to prove the only way to not um, give not to be in quote damned in that situation is you have to be ignorant and doubtful. He talks about doubt in that. Um, that was a whole conversation that I actually would like you to and see what your interpretation on that part that
I
I
didn't
just
have,
kind of gave.
I'm not, I didn't have much, I guess, to add other than, like I enjoyed the exchange, but um, I don't know if I have anything too interesting to add,
Okay,
unfortunately.
no, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, I was like, okay, I think I get what you're trying to say here, but I'm not entirely sure. Um, but then I guess he got
Almost like I didn't reread this chapter. The previous one, um,
with
I did like I thought there were like some philosophically rich things that I wanted sort of at the forefront of my mind and like to be able to digest after having read it. I maybe I should have done the same with this one.
no, no, it's fine. It is totally fine. I don't really reread my chapters that much. I just try to take notes as I go, and then I'll
I
just read
gotcha.
my notes and kind of remind myself of what was going on. Um, but yeah, that was like an exchange, I guess, the philosophy of that situation. I didn't quite get that. I know I'm sure someone in the comment section is like, these guys just don't know anything. Feel free to put in the
Oh,
comments and
they're still watching on like episode 8. I think we're
yeah. So
okay.
feel free to hate watch or that just call us idiots. I don't mind. Anyways, so he also so Akko ruminates on Kels's discussion the night before, and he's at war with them with self on teaching the no system. He's like, man, should I do this? Talking thinks I don't say philosophically about well, um, my people have guarded this secret for like 2,000 years. We can't teach when no one broke. It's like, but like the goal of Surfwapa's whole goal was to supply a tool everyone's to prepare for the second coming of the No God. So shouldn't it be? Wouldn't it be mean that I'm the most like dedicated to our cause um, by teaching the Gnosis to Kells because he's the best way for us to win, and he's just going back and forth with himself, and so he ultimately decides like he'll just wait and see what happens. Again, he's still indecisive in this situation. We get a little bit of history about as he travels. We get a little history about like the library and how it's like really ancient, has a lot of some really good knowledge of a bunch of different things. When the Padi Raja and the Kianin were conquering this land, they were about to burn this building down because he had his own book of the solitary god and he was saying, "This is all blasphemy. You don't need this here. Get rid of it. Burn it to the ground." Until a scroll fell down at his feet, and he found a map of Mansour Empire, and he used a lot of the information there to win their battles and conquer more land. So they got a pass because it was just so useful. You just can't throw away that type of knowledge just willy nilly. So he put that away, and he said, "Okay, no one is allowed to enter this building other than like a select few people, and no one that can do any sorcery can get in there. It's supposed to be. We think that the gnosis is there, so yeah, we decided to. That's what kind of triggered Akka to go over there because that's what Zen was told from a some dude their shoe, which I guess now we know is we'll get on to what happened after. So Akka manages to get there, um, and he introduces himself as with an alias and finds that these people that if this I think from Proyas finds out that um, these people are if they knew that he was there they wouldn't have allowed him in, so he gave us an alias and he was allowed to enter. He has to leave Daybreak outside. Where Daybreak is after this, I have no idea. So he goes in the library, picks out a few books, finds some cool information, and then he starts dreaming. He dozes off at a certain point, starts dreaming about Seswatha and and a whole bunch of different armies on their way to Golgotharoth. Um,
Yeah,
and
couldn't help you with that one.
yeah, I just remember just saying Golgotharoth a lot. So um, yeah, basically Mordor equivalent. And yeah, so he eventually wakes up and he sees that there's some Scarlet Spires people in here, and he's like confused, like, okay, they're out here for the Gnosis. They must have heard the Gnosis. And he realized they're not here for the Gnosis. They are here for the Gnosis, but they're not looking for in scrolls. They're looking for in me. And so they surround him. I think there's around six of them surround him along with Eliazareth. And Akka started using Gnosis and was able to kill two people before he was subdued and captured. And that was the end of chapter 12.
Banger. We're back. Like I said, it was with part one. With the first part of part one, it was kind of for me like I had taken a few weeks break.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really just good to be back. And I think the state of things where kind of all our main characters were together, like I was having fun. And then the second half of the part, I know you were a little surprised that I hadn't necessarily enjoyed it as much.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we're off to a really good start with part two. So and from what I've heard, the second half of this book is for some people the highlight of the trilogy. So that's where we are.
That's
So
fair. I like the first part more than the second part, but that's just me. I don't know why.
okay, fair enough. I mean, second meaning the first half of the book or the part one of the three parts.
I think I like so far. I like this part one and part two. I can't quite remember. I remember what happens at the end, but I don't remember what happens in between. Oh, I just remember the main parts of what happened in between, but I remember what happened at the end, and I'm like, it was cool. But I like the first part. I mean, I just like beginnings of books for some reason. I'm just a beginning of a book part type of person.
That's fair. It's
So
been a great beginning. But I think like things are really starting to pick up steam for me now, um, and just watching Kellis work his magic, and it's so great, and like I don't know, a lot of subtle symbolism going on that I'm starting to pick up on now that I'm really getting a good grasp. I think for what Baker's trying to do. I'm sure I'm missing all these seeds that'll be awesome to chat about at the end. So it's great. Um,
yeah,
but I think I really like appreciate the time we're spending in different characters' heads as well, um, because yeah, I don't know. I think not only just getting different perspectives, like I tend to like more POVs in books, but um, just seeing the different sort of effects on what's going on to different sorts of people, I think
hmm
has been really great. So I'm looking forward to reading on. So 5 chapters for the next episode. Uh, finish off part two before we dive into closing this book out. But yeah,
yeah.
well, thanks for joining us, and see you next week.
See you guys next week. Feel free to comment, criticize. See ya.
We'll take it. All right.